I'm not the overly adventurous type, but a friend of mine is, and he told me a similar story a few years ago. He's a fellow Redditor, so I hope I get the facts straight. He and a few of us went to an abandoned mental hospital in our city. They like to explore abandoned buildings all the time. So it's late one night, and there's a field of tall grass leading up to the building. There are obviously no lights on in the building, and there's just a creepy aura about it. Two of the big black dudes that came with them stopped at the door and actually refused to go in. So, they go down the halls, floor by floor, and there's nothing in any of the rooms. But there is crazed, mindless writing all over the walls in many of them. They finally make it to the top floor, and it's nothing but a long, pitch black hallway with a door at the end of it. They walk down the hall, and being the crazy, adventurous people that they are, decide to see what's inside. However, it's the only door in the building that's locked. Multiple guys pound and kick at the door to try and break it open, but it won't budge. One guy shines a flashlight through the keyhole, or some sort of hole in the door, I can't really remember, to see what's inside. Nothing, except more crazed writing on the walls, that was visible only by the faint light. After failing once again to break the door down, they give up and walk back down the hall. When they get to the end, at the stairwell, they hear the door fling open and slam the hall. It's still pitch black, and the only thing they can see is a huge, shadowy figure in the doorway. Then, they hear a thumping, slow at first, but the pace quickens. The figure is running towards them. They sprint down the stairs faster than they've ever run before, and all the while they hear just a few flights above them the thump, thump. They make it to the first floor and burst out the door, where the two guys are waiting outside. They tell them to run, and they all sprint to their van, get in, and pull away. They look out the window and see that huge dark figure still chasing them. I tried to remember the story the best I could. I don't think my friend is a liar, so I always believed him. I just always thought it was a cool story. This is 100% true, even though most people I tell this to in real life don't believe me. When I was really little, my parents would let me stay up late on the weekends and watch TV until I fell asleep. I really loved these times, and I would stay up later than anybody else just because I could. Well, one night I was almost asleep on the couch when I heard a noise on our front porch. It was the sound of our old-fashioned porch swinging back and forth. I was a little scared, so I crept toward the bay windows of my living room and peeked out towards the porch. Sitting on my front porch, swing was an older woman, probably in her 50s, wearing nothing but a nightgown, covered in blood, and holding a huge kitchen knife. I flipped out immediately and ran screaming into my parents' room, but was too terrified to form words. My parents saw that I was upset, but when I finally was able to tell them what I saw, my dad got incredibly angry and told me that it was just a dream and to go back to bed. I refused and kept crying and screaming until he had enough and snatched my arm and dragged me towards the front door to prove that nothing was there. I kicked and screamed all the way trying to make him stop, but he kept pulling me. Finally, we got to the door. He unlocked it, swung it open, and said, "See, there's nothing To this day, I have never seen the look of fear and shock that was on his face when that woman turned and stared at both of us and slowly stood up with the knife. My dad slammed the door shut and got my mom to call the police, while he went and got his gun. We went back to the door with a 12 gauge and cracked the door enough to stick the barrel out. He asked her what she was doing, and she said, "Somebody killed my husband, but it wasn't me." My dad told her that the police were coming, and she freaked out, grabbed the knife, and walked away. The police found her 15 minutes later trying to break into one of our neighbors' houses. I never slept in the living room again. Oh yeah, I forgot to say that after she left, my dad called and warned my crazy uncle, who lived next door, about what was happening. Apparently he was waiting on his front porch with his shotgun when she walked by. He pointed at her and just said, "Keep moving." I'm a retired police officer, but this happened to me in the year of 2007, on Halloween night. I was working late one night and on patrol when I decided to take a back street that led to a corn maze. While driving past it, I happened to see a black van that I narrowly missed parked in the field. I was going to go past it, but I got a feeling to check it out. As I pulled up next to the vehicle, I was immediately greeted with the stench of decay. I opened the back door of the van to see two dead bodies in bags, a man and a woman. I immediately called for backup and told dispatch what I had found and where I was. I was going to wait in my vehicle, but then all the crickets in the nighttime ambience just ceased as I heard noise behind me. I unholstered my gun and demanded whomever was in there to come out in the most demanding tone possible. I was trying my hardest not to sound scared, but in truth, my heart was doing track. It was then I began to hear rustling and movement all around me. I didn't know how many there were, and I began to feel stupid on giving my position away. It was then I heard a growl and a sharp pain in my back leg as a dog latched onto my back leg, followed by a man exiting the cornfield in a plague doctor mask carrying a scythe. As he approached, I quickly shot the man twice, and as I struggled with the dog, I then shot it too. As I stumbled up, it took 15 minutes before other officers arrived. I was bleeding and dirty from the scuffle. The other officers called an ambulance, but I was going to be fine, unlike the two victims who turned out to be the owners of the corn maze and the guy I just shot and his dog. The sick bastard who killed them turned out to be some psychotic killer who was part of a death cult that had been plaguing Mississippi for quite some time. What still haunts me is, still to this day, that what would have happened had I not shot that guy in time. It's the most wonderful time of the year again. Or is that Christmas? Regardless, I enjoyed those stories, and I hope you did as well. Here on the Recreant Journals, we enjoy when our Recreants get into holiday festivities. And without further ado, I'll end the video here. But if you like what you've been hearing, remember to like, share, and subscribe. And also, remember that fear